And hello everyone, welcome to this week's video, which will be the last installment of chapter 3 in the Sandwich Horse Treatise by Grandmaster Ronghua. In the first board, Red attacked with the 5-7 cannons. In the second board, Red used the pawn rank cannon for attack. And in this third board, Red would use the rank and file chariot variation. So without further ado, we shall start today's board whereby there are 3 variations and 3 major sub-variations to study. As in the earlier videos, I've deliberately chosen to put black at the bottom so as to encourage or allow the viewer to see the game from the eyes of black. So without further ado, c2 equals to 5, the pale corner cannon, and Red will continue with p3 plus 1 for the third pawn advancement variation. And in this variation, black chose to move the right elephant. So in the previous videos, we have seen Red attacking with the 5-7 cannons, or attacking with pushing c8 plus 4. Now in this board, black would push, Red will continue with c9 plus 1 to develop his left chariot as a rank chariot. By doing so, it was fairly obvious that Red would be prepared to move the chariot over the rank chariot to his fourth file, and this would by doing so, black would have to move either one of the advisors, and this would discourage black from developing his left chariot, as it cannot cross the palace anymore. Other than this advantage, another advantage of Red's rank chariot variation will be that after the rank chariot had moved to the fourth file, his other chariot, the file chariot, will be able to cross the river and attack the pawn on black's left flank. As can be seen, one of the innate or inherent congenital weaknesses of the Sandwich Horse defense would be the left horse, which is unprotected. So at this point in time, please remember this position, and from here on there will be 3 major variations which will be discussed. The first of which would be a4 plus 5, the second would be p1 plus 1, and the third would be c2 equals to 1 for the edge chariot, and each variation will be studied in detail. So to the first variation, a4 plus 5 was played. This can be considered to be a prophylactic move to prepare for Red's possible r9 equals to 4, and also allow the black chariot to be developed as r1 equals to 4. However, since black had already moved the chariot, Red would choose to play r9 equals to 6 instead, and discourage the development of the black chariot. So black will continue with p1 plus 1, as this file was already commanded by Red, and black would try to trade trade pawns early, so that his horse would be able to move to the riverbank and threaten the red chariot. And Red would try to trade more material. So at this point, one might wonder, would h7 plus 6 as planned be viable? We shall see. So if black did push the horse to the riverbank to threaten the red chariot, Red would in turn be ready to threaten the black elephant. So after trading both pawns, we can see that red will have a very nice and stable formation, whereas black's pieces are a little bit in disarray, and the black horse would be in trouble. So if the elephant were moved back, black would lose more tempo. So at this point in time, red could be seen as having the significant advantage. Hence after red offered to trade pawns, it would not be advisable to push the horse forward to the riverbank. Instead, accepting the pawn would be a good idea. And again, at this point in time, all the red pieces would have decent lines to develop, while black would not have moved any of his chariots, so red will still have the advantage. So this is the first variation whereby black played a4 plus 5. So nowadays this would be the reason why this variation by black is seldom seen, because black's weaknesses were too apparent too early on. So that will allow red to make adjustments to his attacking plan, and black would be in trouble because both chariots would not be developed. So if a4 plus 5 was not feasible, the Grandmaster then proceeded to analyze the possibility of p1 plus 1. Again, after p1 plus 1, it will be red's turn to move, and there will be two moves that were discussed. The first of which would be r9 equals to 4 to threaten black's pale corner cannon as planned. The other one would be r9 equals to 6. So what would happen if r9 equals to 6 were played? This would be a different situation as compared earlier on, because black has not moved the advisor. So black could continue with trading the pawns and moving his chariot to the cross riverbank rank, and this is to protect the pawn from capture by the black chariot. And black will proceed to trade chariots, and it will be a rather even game for both colors. At this point in time, red's horses would have some degree of difficulty in developing, and black on the other hand would still have to try to find a way to develop his left horse. But the pace of the game would have slowed down considerably, and at this point it would be considered to be rather equal, and black could be very satisfied with this outcome. So r9 equals to 6 would not be a good idea, as it seems at this point. So if r9 equals to 4 were played, and this position would be similar to the previous variation shown. Under most circumstances, offering to trade chariots as what black did would not be recommended, but in this case, after trading chariots, black's biggest worry would be which was the red chariot would now be removed, so he could then take time to find better lines of development for his horse. So in this context, it would be advisable for black to offer a trade of chariots, despite the fact that he might lose tempo. So after trading chariots, red would not have any obvious target to attack, so red would try to solidify his own defenses. And at this point in time, black can be very satisfied with this outcome, because the situation would be even, and red would have trouble developing his edge horse, and black could easily move his chariot or develop his chariot as r1 equals to 2 or r1 equals to 4 as needed. So in this situation, black can be considered to be it can be considered to be a viable variation for black. So back to the position of discussion. So we have discussed a4 plus 5, and then p1 plus 1, and the last variation that was discussed for this board was black playing c2 equals to 1 immediately. Out of these three variations for black, this particular variation would be most satisfactory. And at this time, three more sub-variations were discussed, and the first would be r9 equals to 6, the second would be r9 equals to 4, and the third and last sub-variation would be r2 plus 6, whereby red will utilize the foul chariot to attack. So if r9 equals to 6 were played, black will continue to develop his chariot. Again, it would be advisable or feasible for black to trade chariots at this point. And after trading chariots, although black will lose a move or one tempo, it will be more than compensated for the cross riverbank chariot that black would have now. And again, red's horses would find it very hard to be developed, and it will be considered to be an even situation which black can be very satisfied with. So after c2 equals to 1 for this third variation, the first variation was r9 equals to 6. The second sub-variation that was discussed was r9 equals to 4, whereby red would continue to his attack on the palace corner cannon. So the line that the Grandmaster gave was a4 plus 5, and again black can be satisfied with this situation. At this point in time, using the chariot to protect the horse in this manner was to prepare for black to play c1 plus 1 to attack and capture the red chariot, because it would have nowhere to run. So usually the red chariot will have to be moved, and that will result in a loss of tempo for red. And there are still many other traps to take note of, but black as a whole would have developed all its major pieces, and this would be quite an improvement over the earlier variations and sub-variations. So r9 equals to 4 would seem not to be a very good move at this point for red. So if r9 equals to 6 or r9 equals to 4 was not feasible, the Grandmaster then introduced r2 plus 6 for r2 plus 6 as a means of development for the foul chariot. So by attacking with this chariot, red's rank chariot will be able to adopt a wait and see approach to the match and be able to move more strategically or more after how black moved or played his game. So after r2 plus 6, black would usually continue with r1 equals to 2, and red would use the 5-7 cannons in this in the book. And again, black would offer a trade of chariots, and in this situation red would not accept the change of chariots, a trade-off. And at this point, this will be the only move that will be feasible for black. So sacrificing the horse is the only move that will be feasible according to the Grandmaster. It would be a disaster if black chose to play c8 plus 2 at this point, because red would push the pawn forward and red will be prepared to play r3 equals to 4 on the next move. the pawn coupled with the presence of the chariot will be a very big issue for black to handle. And at this point, black cannot play cannot capture the elephant as and at this point black cannot capture the pawn with his elephant. If he did, red will be able to attack on the other flank, and black will be in deep trouble. Hence, it would not be a good move or good idea to protect the horse in this manner, even though black was prepared to retreat his cannon and concentrate his pieces on one flank. So at this point, the only feasible move would be c6 plus 4, and since black offered a sacrifice, would it be feasible or possible for red to accept it? So let's say, what would happen if red did accept black's sacrifice? And after sacrificing the horse, black would be compensated with a bot corner cannon, whereby the chariot will also be prepared to attack, and red will probably have to find a way to prevent his red chariot from being captured by black's discovered attacks. So at this point, even though black was one piece down, black could be considered to have the advantage in this situation. So that is why the black horse will be poisoned, and red would only dare to play r3 equals to 4. So black would continue to attack with c6 equals to 7, and then black's right horse would pounce into attack and join the action. At this point in time, it would be a sound move for black to capture the central pawn in this manner. It would not be a good idea to use the chariot to protect the cannon. Otherwise, red will command a huge advantage after trading pieces. So, as can be seen, after the check, no matter what black did, like capturing the great cannon, his chariot would be lost. So this is why it would not be advisable for black to protect his cannon with r8 plus 6 in this situation. So red would trade material, and at this point in time, black will use the horse to trade material. It will be the correct order of moves to make. Black cannot jump the gun and play c1 plus 4 at this point in the game, because after playing c1 equals to 4, red will gladly trade his chariot for 2 of black pieces, and in the process of trading material, red will have a much better position, and this pawn will be a very big problem for black to handle. Hence, at this point, capturing the horse will be the correct move to do, and black would not dare to capture the black horse, or red will apply a cannon fork with c1 plus 4. So red will choose to play it safe with c7 equals to 6, or it will be captured by the black horse, and black would have gained back lost material, and blacks would gain a cross river chariot in the process. This black chariot will be the biggest headache that red could have, and black can be very satisfied and even optimistic of his chances in this game. So this will be the last sub-variation of the third variation of chapter 3. So a short review. In the third board, red would develop both his chariot as a foul and rank chariot. Please note that the mentioning of the foul chariot or rank chariot, mentioning which chariot was developed in whichever way, is not compulsory, or there's no obvious rule regarding the nomenclature. As long as you can also call it the ranked and foul chariot or the foul and rank chariot as possible. So once this position was reached, the Grandmaster discussed 3 variations. The first one was a4 plus 5. The second one was p1 plus 1, whereby black would develop his chariot from the edge file. And the last sub-variation, and perhaps the best option for black, would be c2 equals to 1. So after reaching this position, another 3 more sub-variations were discussed, whereby black would develop his chariot as r9 equals to 6 or r9 equals to 4, or develop the other chariot with r2 plus 6. And out of these 3 variations, it would seem that black would fare the best with should red attack with r2 plus 6. So in the end, black will be able to achieve rather favorable positions as long as no major blunders were made. So as a short summary, in chapter 3, in chapter 3, black would developed his right elephant as the key. Red would develop the right elephant as the key variation or move for the chapter, and 3 different ways of attack were studied. And out of the 3 variations by red in the first, second and third board, it would seem that black's right elephant variation was not still very ideal, and modern day opening technique or opening variations would encourage black to play e7 plus 5 for the left elephant variation instead. With the right elephant variation, one of the key plans that black would have was to maneuver his left chariot to the right flank, so that he could try to launch a concerted attack or an orchestrated attack on red's right flank. But the downside or the weakness of this plan would be that his left horse would be left in a very vulnerable position. So perhaps these are some of the reasons why black's right elephant variation is not so commonly seen in actual over the board play nowadays. And this will wrap up the video for this week. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll try to squeeze more time to make more videos. Thank you, and if you like my video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and have a nice day and have a nice weekend.